allege that after you shot the what? Excuse me.
Yeah.
We're in court. Can you please turn your mobile phone off, sir?
Just talking to
Unbelievable.
Just talking to
Order in the court. Turn off your phone, please, officer.
Just talking to
Officer, what are you saying? What are you trying to say?
The only discrepancies I see is the silver flip top Motorola was clearly seen by 6 to 7 witnesses and of the public, yet was described by a police officer at 10 metres away as a silver Walter aimed at the body of officers to fight, to wound or injure officers. The deceased woman was actually, she had no previous history at all and was actually an upstanding member of the community, working with the elderly and youth. By the looks of things, she'd worked hard her whole life and built a life for herself, which was sadly taken away by the officers once again here today. It's always a saddening event when a member of the public is taken forcefully. For mortal force had to be used.
Are you okay, officer? You seem to be having some trouble articulating yourself. Is it because you're retarded and that's why you're a police officer?
Can you explain why all 6 police statements were exactly the same? Yeah,
Your Honour, the reason for that is because only myself and Officer Jeffries here
seen the Walter.
were actually in the line of sight of what we thought to be a Walther PPK,
a weapon,
.22 caliber.
A deadly weapon.
Yes.
A deadly weapon.
The one carried by James Bond, actually. Anyway.
A deadly weapon. We agree that if it was a Walter, silver Walter pistol.
Yes, sir.
11 rounds.
Yep.
32 caliber.
No, sorry, Your Honour. .22 caliber.
.22 caliber. If it was, yet it was found to be a Motorola, and
we were not aware that Motorola made guns, Your Honour.
The footage shows her clearly pressing the buttons on her Motorola.
Your Honour.
In a manner like that, you described it as her pointing her finger and making threats towards the officer while holding the Walter.
Well, she was holding the alleged weapon, and she was also pointing her finger. And she was pointing at the other object that we now know to be the Motorola pistol.
Just some would say
but at the time,
look, officer, that is
she had a look in her eyes that was very.
That has
something that was hard to understand.
That has been found to be a complete fabrication of events. There was never a Walter .22 pistol found on the elderly woman.
Of course not. Obviously, this was a mistake. It's myself and Officer Jeffries here. May I mention, Your Honour, that after we had tased her disabled son to death after trying to, what we now know is cut her.
Shocking, but necessarily.
Yeah, no,
completely necessary.
Thank you, Your Honour. Thank you for understanding why we had to do what we did. And then forgetting to turn the taser off and not realizing after he's dead, and then shooting him 4 times in the head. That, again, Your Honour, we were just trying to look out for the care and safety of our officers and our peacekeepers. And then, yes, it was an unfortunate accident that we happened to drive over his head after we blew it. Well, after we shot him 4 times.
Happens all too often
over
around
his
here.
head in the
Victoria.
Dewey van.
In the Victorian
And
services.
we had every reason to think that we were at the right address, that this was not the son of a church minister.
Oh, so this was actually not the intended offender.
Yeah, of course not.
This is
Of
a
course.
member of the public, not even
Oh,
involved
Your Honour,
in the
Your
commission
Honour,
of any crime.
if we had known the correct information when we went to the address, and if we had known that the assailant was not the person in question and was mentally disabled, we wouldn't have electrocuted him to death, kicked him in the head and shot him 4 times in the head, and then the accidentally rolling over could have happened anyway, but bottom line is we wouldn't have done it. We had no indication. We thought it was 2:32 and it was 2:23.
Terrible.
And Your Honour, it was just after that unfortunate incident, just after the crushing incident that happened when the wheel went over his head. That's when the mother came out, and she was, in my opinion, Your Honour, affected by alcohol, and Your Honour, she was displaying signs of manic behaviour. She was wailing very loudly, and she was also, like the aforementioned assailant, alleged assailant, she was also running at us very fast, and we had no option but to grab her by the head and smash it onto the concrete until she was subdued.
Terrible accident.
Yes, Your Honour.
Deadly force.
Your Honour, the woman showed all signs of violent and mentally unwell behaviour.
She was found to
We were
not
there.
have any mental
We were the
illness.
only people at the scene. I had to make sure my officer here, Officer Jeffries, was okay. I'm kind of his mentor. And yeah, like I said, when we heard the code word, what was that code word again? After that unfortunate.
The code word used was
I'm sorry,
we
Your Honour,
ca-
we should know because we use it all.
we came to win and
That-
we won
That's right, Your Honour. Yes.
after the
Yes.
excessive.
So after the female alleged assailant had been subdued, we then. Sorry, what was the word?
The words used
Yeah.
by the officer
I can't
involved
believe I
in
can't remember this for years. Was it Johnny?
we came to win and we won. But
That's
that
right, Your Honour.
was that
We came to win, but we won.
and we
That's
won.
what we say when we need somebody to come in. It's code with me and my group at our little police station.
It wasn't a threat directed at by Victorian police
Absolutely
to Victorian criminals to
Absolutely
say
not, Your Honour. Victoria Police are a very proud police, and we're famous around the world. and we followed protocol, Your Honour. We said Your Honour a lot, Your Honour, and yes, Your Honour, yes, the code that was used, which is what you said earlier, basically means the assailant has been subdued. Please bring in the medical team. As we were pretty sure the assailant was deceased, as her head is cracked open like a coconut.
There's also some issues surrounding why the 6 officers involved, their body cams were turned off for a period of 3 minutes,
Your Honour,
26.
Your Honour, that was due to a strange coincidence, because one turned off, and then whilst we were trying to use another cam to work out the problem, everything blew up, and the third cam that was still active was somehow blocked by the assailant. So unfortunately, the other 2 officers involved in in subduing the assailant, their cameras weren't working, Your Honour. So, and unfortunately, my camera was covered by something, the assailant's hand probably. Sorry, what was the question again?
It is all getting a bit murky. The details of the facts here today.
Your Honour, if you look at the footage from my officer's cameras once they were turned back on and enabled again, and the audio on my camera, you'll hear the words "stop resisting" being said over and over again by me and my fellow officers.
It did appear to be a body, or should we say a corpse, in the background with the stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting. And
the deceased in the background, we had to say the same thing to him. Stop resisting, as he was resisting after he tried to come over, and with a crazy, looked like a crazy happy face almost, but it was weird. But even we don't know. We don't know. We see someone coming at us, we just got to shoot them. And so we did it to protocol. We shot him one time on the right side. Then we shot him directly in the heart, Your Honour. Then we shot him in the head, Your Honour. I'm sorry, Your Honour. Before that, we tased him until he was on the ground. So, okay, let me say that. He came to us. We tased him. The taser was not 100. It was not
discharged.
No, it was discharged, but the taser was not sufficiently effective to subdue.
I see the 26 charges.
And now that I know that the deceased was a retard. Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honour. I'm not a retard. I'm a mentally challenged person. I now can understand why it took so long for them to stop convulsing on the ground after us shocking him for so long. Because usually Your Honour, an assailant goes down with 1 or 2 taps. We thought the taser wasn't working. We didn't even turn it off for that reason. And by the time that he ended up getting shot 3 times, is it 3 or 4?
No, it was 4.
Sorry, Your Honor. 4 times in the head. The reason we made that mistake, as I said, was because there was still electricity pulsing through his body, and because of that, we were not able to ascertain whether the assailant had stopped resisting. So at that point, we discharged shots into his chest as per protocol, shoot to kill, 1 in the head, and then we did 3 more because even after the 1 in the head, Your Honor, even after his heart was blown out, he was still shaking around. We couldn't work out. And now, now we get it. It was a bloody taser. We didn't understand that. And as far as rolling the divvy van over his head, that was an absolute mistake. That was an absolute unfortunate mistake, Your Honor. But yes,
unexplainable, really, Heather.
and yes, and then the mother came out, and yeah, you can look back on what I said because I can't really remember.
There's also a boot print was found on the deceased to the side of the face, found to be belonging to a member of the police force. The footage shows some kicking in a downward motion to the corpse.
Which footage, Your Honor?
16 minutes after the actual discharge of the firearm.
I
Can that be
wasn't aware
explained?
that footage was part of this investigation, Your Honor.
Can that be explained?
Well,
What
that footage, Your Honor, because as you say, it was 16 minutes
after the firearm was discharged,
and yes,
4 times.
after
4 times.
deceased. So, sometimes when us at
Looks to be a stomping
at our
motion.
little station, you know, and our little, sometimes traumatic things happen, like this, Your Honor, and I find, as a sociopath, sorry, what was it? Yeah, I find that,
Stomping
this,
motion.
yes, that's right, yeah.
Towards
When I was
the
a kid,
deceased.
it was taught to me that when horrible things that nobody should ever have to see or do, or when they happen, the best thing you can do after them is make light of them. Because there's nothing you can do once it's done. And it's better to have a happy memory than a sad memory.
Officer
So what we were
described it
doing,
as
so when we were
his
doing
traditional Irish haku,
that, so when we were
dance.
stomping on his head,
Dance.
yeah, we were stomping on his head, and it was kind of a river dance. But we, anyway, when we were doing that, that was everybody trying to, get their spirits free from what they just witnessed, the terror and the hardship that they're going to have to deal with their entire lives, just for the sake of criminals cooking meth that unfortunately we're still looking for.
The offender has
Yes,
actually the offender that was actually that the members of the police force were visiting his premises today, which turned out to be the wrong premises. Similar incident happened actually only 7 weeks ago, where an innocent member of the public was once again killed by excessive force, resulting in another.
Could you be a little bit more specific, Your Honour? Because Victoria Police deal with a lot of deceased criminals.
We can only deal with
every
the
year.
facts we've got here today.
We have to deal with a lot of homicide. Sorry, Your Honour. It's not homicide. side, is it? Because we're just doing a peaceful thing. Unfortunately, yes, yeah, we deal with a lot of deceased criminals that we have killed.
Why is it some of the younger officers
because-
involved, they have refused to make a statement of the incident at all? Describing what happened and stated that they will leave it to higher officers in charge, as they've been directed to do.
Your Honour, I would know. I would have to speak to those particular officers and find out their reasons for that.
Strange, very strange.
Yeah, well,
Refused.
Your Honour, trauma can cause a lot of strange behaviour in otherwise very well functioning
Agreed.
and good people. So I just ask that Your Honour consider the fact that these young renegades we've got, these whippersnappers.
Absolute renegades.
Yeah, they've probably got to deal with no police officer should have to use deadly force, but unfortunately Victoria Police often does, and that's because Victoria's somehow got more violence and reason to kill people by police than anywhere else in the world.
Two innocent members of the public.
Your Honour,
Short space of time.
those people were alleged offenders at the time, and the clerical issue with the numbers, the 230, whatever it was. Look, all we do, we follow protocol. We get given a number, we go around. It's a terrible mistake. I'm not trying to discount this mistake. It's a terrible thing. And we didn't mean to kill the minister's wife and his disabled son.
Terrible. Terrible accident.
And I hear that there's a new minister taking over the church now, so that the community can move forward spiritually and religiously.
The minister actually stated that his son does have mental health issues, and his actual dream since a young boy was to be a Victorian police officer, and he was actually approaching the officers when he seen them in an act of kindness. Witnesses describe him looking happy and trying to communicate.
Well, it's hard to tell, Your Honour, because he's retarded. I mean, mentally just.
Witnesses said he walked calmly. He walked calmly, and he actually had a hot dog and a can of Coke in his hand. There was no apparent
Yes, Your
edged
Honour.
weapon, like stated by one of the officers. May have been an edged weapon. It was actually a hot dog wrapped in foil. It wasn't a shiny edged weapon of approximately 14 centimetres, as stated. Another discrepancy.
Wow.
But, in these
Your Honour,
incidents,
I'm not.
I can see.
Your Honour, I think that myself and my officers, even more so, have done the right thing in this case, in this situation. It's a very unfortunate situation where we've had to kill the priest's wife and his young boy, especially because he was coming to give us a hug, it seems. We wouldn't have used such excessive force if we were aware of whom we were dealing with, Your Honour. And of course, rolling over his head with the divvy balance was a terrible accident. That could have happened to anybody.
No.
That's an accident.
Tragic.
And yes,
Tragic.
and then to have to, and my officers were dishevelled at the time when the pastor's wife ran out. And like I said, she was hysterical. She was wailing, making loud noises, and running toward, well, what we now think might have been her son, her dead son. But at the time, we had no reason to ascertain anything other than that she was coming to attack the police officers at the scene. And this is why she was also subdued in the manner that she was.
So sad, but member of the public, especially an elderly woman with no prior convictions for violence or
Well, this shotgun, unfortunately, was the only gun that was on hand that could be used at the time. We didn't mean to shoot her in the face and pretty much eradicate her entire cranium, head. And it's so unfortunate that she won't be able to have an open casket.
she couldn't be asked to be seated on the steps there and questioned.
Your Honour, for some reason this woman was so hysterical that she just seemed to be, I could see the look of terror in her eyes, and she was not somebody who's in sound of mind, and she was not in a position to speak to people.
Hard to describe
Because she
how
was quite hysterical.
how
It seemed that she
four armed
had
officers.
hysterical issues over her son being subdued the way that he was.
It stated that she was hysterical and
But yes, as you know, Your Honour, that is absolutely reasonable cause for lethal force.
so four
If it's going to
officers,
save the life of a peace officer.
4 armed officers were felt that threatened by a was it 89-year-old
Well,
Prosecutor?
see the other armed
89-year-old
I have to remind
female.
you, officer,
of poor health.
that one officer had already spelled it. Basically, one officer, they had used their gun, their ammo was low, and due to Victoria Police protocol, we decided to put it aside because it had been shot for evidence purposes. And because that officer didn't have his gun, even though it's a Glock and it's got 19 bullets in it, and he only used 4 in the assailant's head, that officer had to put his gun down because of protocol. The second officer, she did draw her weapon, which was also a Glock, 9mm. Unfortunately though, my counterpart here had also seen the need for lethal force, and he shot her first in the face with the 12-gauge shotgun at almost, well, quite close range, almost point blank. And because of that, there were no other shots fired.
That there's accusation that there was 3 witnesses to the incident that were ushered quickly away from the scene and were actually intimidated by multiple officers into what they would describe as the facts and what they had witnessed, and they felt they were intimidated and told, or they were told to say what the officers wanted them to say about the incident. An act of intimidation or just
Your Honour, is this a cross-examination?
protocol. It's just we're just clearing things up, and we're going to deal with the facts, and there's a lot of discrepancies. Once again, you know, we have to
Your
clear this
Honour,
up for the public, the members of the
We
family,
would like to do whatever we can to put this case to rest and to move forward.
and also a small sachet containing approximately 0.4 of Padaline substance described to be cocaine, and 7 round tablets described to be tested as ecstasy was found on the elderly woman. Could this have possibly